What's going on, everybody? It's your big homie, the Armchair Operator, and welcome to today's video. Now, if you're new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope that you find this video informative. And if you're coming back to the channel, thank you so much for coming back. I hope that you also find this video to be informative. Now, we are a month into 2025, and this is usually the time of year where people are thinking about what purchases they're going to make for the year. And there are a lot of people out there who are actually considering purchasing their first firearm. So I wanted to make this video today that's geared towards someone who's either thinking about purchasing their first firearm, or maybe they already got their first firearm and they're trying to figure out what they might want to do with it, where they talk about concealed carry, home defense, whatever. There are a number of things that one should do when either they're thinking about getting their first firearm, or even if they're brand new to the game, they already picked it up. But right now, I'm just going to focus more so on the firearm selection process itself and holster options, because both are very important. Okay, so with all of that being said, let's dive into the meat and potatoes of today's video. All right, now one of my first pieces of advice to someone who's thinking about purchasing their very first firearm is to ask themselves this important question: what are you buying it for? So that particular question is going to help you on your search to figure out what you're ultimately going to get. And like with any tool, every tool has its specific purpose. So are you buying your first firearm for concealed carry? Are you buying it for home defense? Maybe you're buying it for duty use. Maybe you're a security officer, or maybe you're in a police academy for a law enforcement agency or something like that. Or maybe you just want, you see competition shooters out there running competition circuits, so maybe you want to get a competition gun. So that's why that particular question is the first question that you should ask yourself: what is the purpose of buying this firearm? It could be a collector's piece, it could be whatever, but you want to think about that. After you think about what you actually want the firearm for, then you could kind of go into now what type of firearm that you're ultimately going to select. Now, before that, I'm going to caveat this by saying, especially to all my new people who are thinking about getting into this space, you definitely want to do some research on the laws, on the gun laws in your respective areas. Okay, there are firearms laws across both the federal, state, and local levels, and a lot of different states have different laws. A lot of different municipalities have different laws. Some states have preemption laws. Like, there's a lot out there to learn. So my advice to you all, and this is not legal advice, this is just me sharing my many years of experience in doing this. My advice to you is to start with doing your homework, doing your research, and educating yourself on the laws in your local area. Okay, now with that disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about firearm selection. So for this video, I'm just going to limit it to more so handguns. Because I don't want this video to be an hour long. There are potential long gun selections, especially if you're talking about concealed carry. Not concealed carry, I apologize, home defense, something like that. But the purpose of this video is going to be strictly restricted to handguns. Okay. Now, when it comes to handguns, there are a lot of different types of handguns, and there are a lot of different sizes, caliber selections, and things like that. So for the new gun owner, there are going to be a lot of different things to consider. Now, if you're brand new, I would say if you have a friend who is knowledgeable, who's truly knowledgeable, who you trust in, as far as firearms ownership and things like that, talk to those people. See if those people will take you to the range, and maybe you can get yourself an introductory lesson, whether that person can give you an introductory lesson, or maybe even the range that you go to can give you an introductory lesson. One of the things that helped me a lot in the beginning of my firearms journey is that I immersed myself with as much knowledge as I could find. Back in those days, YouTube really wasn't even a thing. Matter of fact, I don't even think YouTube was around when I started this. So it was just me going to the state attorney general's website, just trying to look up like for example, I'm in Pennsylvania. So I was just looking up the crimes codes that surround firearms and things like that. And just starting there, Wikipedia articles, just, you know, trying to get an idea of how they work, the construction of an actual bullet and things like that. So that was just me. Nowadays, information is so readily accessible. So there's a lot of different resources that you could choose from. Another piece of advice that I would also say is that your local gun shops. Now, the people who work at your local gun shops are very knowledgeable people most of the time. And I would highly encourage you to talk to these people. And if you have a local gun shop that has a range, that's even better. A lot of times they will give you an introductory lesson on the range, either with one of their rental firearms, or even if you're thinking about buying a firearm, 9 times out of 10, they will offer a free lesson for people who are looking to buy firearms. So definitely reach out to these people and take advantage of these resources. Like, there's a lot of different ways to get information nowadays. Now, let's talk about handgun selection. So like I said, there are a lot of different types of handguns we talking about, like your full-size duty guns, like your Glock 17s and your Smith & Wesson M&Ps. And then you have your more compact firearms for concealed carry, like your Glock 19s, or maybe even your micro carries, like maybe your Smith & Wesson Shield Pluses or your 6-hour P365s. The thing about it is this: ergonomics matter. So this is another reason why I always suggest that people, if you could find a local gun store that has a range, or even just a shooting range in general that offers rentals, it's a good idea to always try before you buy. Firearms are expensive items. Even the lowest cost firearm costs probably a few $100. Okay, these are investments, and the last thing you want to do is spend your hard-earned money on a tool or item or anything and you get it and you don't like it. Because essentially what's going to happen is, when you buy this thing, if you don't like it, you're not going to train with it, you're not going to carry it, and ultimately you're going to suck with it. And you don't want any of those things. So it's always good to find a place where you can, if you have an idea of something that you want to get, go to a local shooting range or go with a buddy, see if you could try some of his or her firearms, or try to rent some firearms that you might have an eye on and see how they feel for you before you make that expensive decision. Okay, so now let's talk about full-size handguns versus compact handguns versus micro-compact handguns. I have here a Glock 47 Gen 5 MOS, and just for the sake of YouTube, the firearm is clear. There's no magazine in the firearm itself, so the gun is safe. Okay, this is an example of a full-size gun. This particular firearm has I believe with the radiant ramjet installed, it's probably like about 4.9 inches. I think regularly the regular barrel length is about 4.7 inch barrel length. And you have a full-size grip, 17-in-1 capacity for this particular gun. And this is the same size and footprint as, say, a Glock 17. So this is the type of firearm that a lot of law enforcement officers can carry on duty. A lot of police agencies issue Glock 17s, and or some of them nowadays also issue Glock 47s, which is what this is. So this is an example of a full-size gun. Now, full-size guns are great training are great to learn and train on. The reason being, because of the larger grip, it's easier to get a good solid purchase on the firearm. Not only that, it also makes it a bit easier to control that recoil. So anytime I'm at the range with a new shooter, I always give them a full-size gun, me personally, to take their first shots with. They're just easier to handle versus something with less real estate to hold the gun, which is essentially what a smaller gun is going to bring. And they're going to bring other things too, and I'll get to that in a minute. But this is an advantage of this is an example of a full size. The main downside to a full size gun is that it's harder to conceal. Now, when it comes to, and there's different carry options and things like that when it comes to concealed carry, but in general, the hardest part of a firearm to conceal is essentially the grip, because when you have this particular holstered, whether you're talking about inside the waistband, usually it's inside the waistband, or even outside the waistband, if you have a concealment holster outside the waistband, 9 times out of 10, this is the part that's going to stick up the most. So obviously having a shorter grip or even a thinner grip is going to make it easier to conceal the firearm, but that's also going to give you less real estate to hold the firearm. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. Now, if you're talking about outside the waistband carry, or if you're talking about duty carry, then something like this would be a very good fit for you, since concealment really isn't much of an issue in that instance. Next up, I have an example of what's considered a compact firearm. This is a Glock 19 Gen 5, non-MOS in case you care. All right. Firearm is clear. Once again, there's no magazine in the gun. Now, as you can see, this firearm is physically smaller than that of a full size. And we have a 4-inch barrel here, and this is a 15-in-1 capacity, and this has a slightly shorter grip than the Glock 47 that I showed you previously. Now, this gun it could serve as a duty gun, because there are people who actually carry this as a duty gun. But the benefit of a compact gun is because the grip is a little shorter, and also it has a slightly shorter barrel, it's easier to conceal. So you will find that a lot of people will use this as what we call their EDC, or their everyday carry. This is one of my everyday carries. It's not in the rotation at the moment, but I do carry this pistol quite often, and I have for some years now. And also the other good thing about a smaller form factor gun is that it tends to be lighter. Now, the biggest drawback between a smaller pistol is going to be slightly harder to control, because again, you have less real estate. And I have fairly large hands, and there's no magazine in the gun, and you can see my pinky is kind of hanging on for dear life right there. So that's just something you want to consider. They have Glocks that are smaller than this. This is the 9mm, so the one smaller than this with the same thickness would be the Glock 26, as what some people would call the fat baby, because that's exactly what it is. It's a fat baby. The grip is slightly shorter, and I believe that gun is either a 12-in-1 or a 13-in-1. It might be a 13-in-1. I'm not really sure. I've never shot a Glock 26. I have shot a Glock 27. That's the 40 cal version of it. Didn't fit me well at all there, and I never bought it. But anyway, this is a compact style gun, and the main benefit is that it's easy to carry. But also the other good thing, really quick before we move on, is that this gun can also, because it's in that in-between footprint, it'll also serve you well as a nightstand gun. So if you have something for home defense, this could possibly work for you. And a lot of compact guns can take the magazines of the full-size guns. So even though this is a 15-in-1, with a standard flush fit magazine, I could use a Glock 17 magazine in this and get a 17-in-1 capacity. That'll give me a slightly longer purchase down here, because the magazine will stick out a bit. So it gives me a bit more for my hand to grasp onto. So that's just something that you want to consider. All right, and next up we have probably the smallest firearm in my collection currently, and this is my Smith & Wesson Shield Plus. Now this particular gun is on business hours, so let's make sure it's clear. We're going to remove the magazine. Firearm is, that chamber is empty. I took the mag out of the gun, but I'm going to reinsert the magazine for illustration purpose, and you'll see why in a bit. Now, as I was saying, this is my Smith & Wesson Shield Plus, and this is an example of what we now call a micro compact. And basically a micro compact, the way I look at it, as he took a compact and just put it on Weight Watchers and made it thinner. Okay. This particular barrel is, I think this is like a 3.5 inch barrel, something like that. And this particular one is 13. This is the 13 round mag. So this is a 13 plus 1, but they also have 15 round magazines for this now. So, but the big takeaway is, with a smaller gun, this is going to be easier to conceal than that of the Glock 19 because it's slimmer and it has a slightly shorter grip. But because this gun is so thin and the grip is shorter, like, see that? I have less purchase on this particular grip, but that's also going to mean that this gun is going to be naturally harder to shoot for most people. And even for good shooters, you may not be as accurate with this gun because, again, ergonomics, they do matter. A lot of people may not talk about it, but they matter. But again, the big selling point for this particular gun is that deep concealment is where it shines. All right, so a quick recap. The first thing you want to do is ask yourself, what are you buying this gun for? Are you buying this for duty use, home defense, concealed carry? Figure out why you're actually thinking about purchasing it, and then you want to move towards your selection process. And like I always say, I'm a strong advocate for trying before you buy. These firearms are expensive, and once you buy it, it's yours. Ain't no such thing as getting going back to the store and getting a refund for the full purchase price. So I'm just letting you know now. But ultimately, like I said, you want to make sure that the gun that you ultimately want to choose is a good fit for you, something that you're willing to carry, something that you're willing to train with, is something that you're willing to be proficient with. Those are very important. And then we talked about the actual main form factors, if you will, of handguns. Now, there are different makes and models of guns out there on the market, various sizes, calibers, all kinds of stuff. But when it comes to the actual footprint on the form factor, those are the main ones. You got your full size guns, you have your compacts, you have your micro compacts. They also have subcompacts too, which is kind of like a compact, but with a shorter grip. And they kind of depend on the company, honestly, but we don't want to go down the rabbit hole. We just want to keep it simple and straight to the point. Okay. Now, let's just say, for the sake of argument, you've made your firearms choice. You made your choice of which firearm that you want to get. You're going to the store, and let's just say you want to get a Glock 19 or whatever, okay? The next very important thing that you want to do, you want to think about what holster you want to get. Now, one of the things that kind of stuck with me early in my journey is that my instructor, when I had my Act 235 training many years ago, he said it makes no sense to spend several $100s on a handgun and then buy a $20 holster, because that doesn't make any sense. And and that is absolutely right. Think about it like this: if you're going to buy your dream car, okay, let's say you go and buy your dream car. Nobody in their right mind is going to put cheap $20 tires on their dream ride. That would just be stupid, and that would be reckless and dangerous. Okay, so especially when you're talking about concealed carry, you want to think about your concealed carry your concealed carry setup as a system, because it is a system which consists of your firearm, your holster, and actually your belt as well. Now, me personally, I am a strong proponent of inside the waistband holsters for concealed carry. So let me show you a couple of examples of inside the waistband holsters. This is an example of an inside the waistband holster. This is actually the holster for my Shield Plus and also my Shield Plus Performance Center. This is a Nova Concealment Defender 1 inside the waistband holster. Shout out to Nova Concealment, my guy Bill, for this quality holster here. And what I like about this holster is, if you look at it, it has a very small footprint and is very minimalist, so to speak. This particular holster could be used in a 4 o'clock carry position, which is kind of right behind the hip, and it could also be used as an appendix carry. And I have appendix carried my Shield Plus with this holster, even though I'm still kind of a BOTP, yeah, brother of the plate. I can still appendix carry with this holster. So this is a nice high quality Kydex holster. Now, when it comes to holster choices, especially nowadays, I am a huge fan of Kydex holsters. The reason for that is Kydex holsters hold their shape over time. Now, back in the days, you had your, I think they were like cowhide holsters and your leather holsters, and they used to have like a strong ridge around the top to prevent the holster from collapsing in when you remove the firearm and reholster. But the problem with leather holsters is that over time they get soft, because leather naturally gets soft as it wears in. So you don't really want a holster, especially when this area right here, which is the trigger guard, I don't know if you can see that, but this particular area is supposed to protect the trigger guard. The last thing you want is your holster to get soft and accidentally hit and engage that trigger. And it is possible if you don't have a nice solid Kydex holster, although I will admit that it's rare, but it is theoretically possible. The other reason why I like a Kydex holster is that it holds its shape and it makes it easier to draw and reholster the firearm, especially if you're carrying something like this appendix style. And fellas, we all know that we have some precious cargo down there, so you want to make damn sure you have a quality holster for your firearm if you're going to appendix carry. And you know why. The last thing you need is a situation to happen with your family jewels. You understand what I'm saying? So you've been warned. But anyway, this is also another example of an inside the waistband holster. This is a TXC Holsters Heritage X1 Ally. And this particular holster is, I believe this is the holster for my Glock 47, Glock 19. And as you can see, this particular, well, both holsters have this little magazine carrier, which I like that because it allows you to carry your holster as well as a spare magazine on your rig. Personally, I carry more than one spare magazine. I'm not going to tell you how many spare magazines I carry because it's really none of your damn business. But all I'm saying is, like they say, one is none and two is one. And I live by that. But anyway, this is a nice holster too. And the thing I like about this holster, it has this little bump on the bottom here. So that way, when it's in your belt line, it's actually pushing the holster that way. And the good thing about that is bringing the butt of your gun, the grip, closer to your body. Because remember, the grip of your firearm is the part that's going to most likely to print. So pulling that closer to your body makes it easy, it hides it better. And also this little raised portion here pushes the holster closer to your body as well, just to make it so that your clothing will hide it better, so that way you don't print. The last thing you need is for some person to notice that you have a firearm on you, they freak out and call the cops, and now they're giving you a hard way to go because they claim that you're brandishing the firearm when you're really not. Your gun is just printing in your clothes. So that's just something that you want to consider. Whether you agree with it or not, it is a thing. But let's move on from there. Now, real quick, when it does come to printing, 9 times out of 10, people are really not paying attention to you all that much to notice that you're printing. You want to dress in a way that your firearm is not printing. That's the whole point of concealment, concealed carry. And while we're on the subject of cheap holsters, this is just an example of a holster that you shouldn't get. This is an old school Uncle Mike's. I think this is a Gunmate pancake style holster. It's not a very good holster, especially by today's standards. This is actually the very first holster that I've had. And I bought this particular holster simply because I didn't have the money to buy anything else at the time when I bought the gun. So I just wanted to show this, like it collapses in and everything. Actually, this is an outside the waistband holster, but I set it up where I was carrying inside the waistband with this thing. Why am I bringing this up? Well, quite simply to say this. When you're setting up your budget for your first carry gun, consider your holster, consider your belt. You want to get a belt that's relatively stiff and that can hold the weight of your firearm. Most dress belts or most casual belts are not built for that. You want a belt that's purpose built for concealed carry. Now, I use a belt from Core Essentials. I can't remember the name of it, but I'll put a picture of it right here so that way you can see for yourself. I like that particular belt because it has a ratcheting belt buckle and it's easy to adjust. It's very durable. And I also like the fact that it holds its shape longer than a lot of the other concealed carry belts that I've used in the past. But there are many different options. That's just the option that I like, but definitely do your research. But the bottom line is you want a nice belt that is designed for concealed carry, that has some rigidity and that can support the weight of your firearm. That's very important when it comes to drawing and reholster the gun. And lastly, on the topic of holsters, we're going to talk about outside the waistband carry. And these are most of the time are going to be your more duty style holsters. And I have two examples of outside the waistband holsters. Well, I would say duty style and competition style. This is my Safariland 6360 RDS outside the waistband holster. This is a level 3 retention holster, and this was made specifically for my Staccato XC with the Surefire X300 weapon light. This is more so a duty style holster, and what that means is that there are active mechanisms that are keeping the firearm secure within the holster. And the great thing about that is security. And if you're talking about in a duty setup, let's say, you don't want somebody being able to grab your firearm and remove your firearm from your holster. You don't want that. So these active retention systems are tools designed to help you retain the firearm. You don't really see this in concealed carry applications like that, but I mean, I don't see how this thing is big and bulky as hell. I don't see how you could. But if you're in an area where you can open carry, then maybe something like this might be of an option for you. Now, this particular holster doesn't come cheap. This thing was like $300 from Safariland. So just so you know, but this is an option. It's a very good quality holster. It's very rigid. It's a light bearing holster. Now, like I said, this was made for the Surefire X300, but it also can accommodate the Streamlight TLR1 HL weapon light, which I do have those weapon lights as well. And to illustrate, I have here my Staccato P. As you can see, that's also clear, no magazine and firearm. And we just gonna sit, boom, no problems. And that's what it looks like when it's in and it's locked in. And to draw, you would simply just push this forward like so. And then there's another, I don't know if you can see that, but there is another lever. You would just thumb it back and pull the firearm right out. So this is a level 3 duty style holster. The last holster type I want to show you all today, this is going to be one of my competition style holsters. This is a Black Hawk Omnivore light bearing holster. This particular holster is more so of a universal style holster, and the way this works is this particular holster is designed to secure a particular weapon light. This model will secure the TLR1. So same scenario where I have my staccato P here, right? I slide this right in the holster, and it's convenient so that because I can accommodate a number of different full size or even compact size guns in this particular holster, just so long as they have that weapon light attached. And I actually have another one for the Streamlight, which is I'm actually using at the moment with my Staccato XC. And this is kind of like a level 2 style holster, because you have the button right here and you would just push down on your thumb and remove the firearm from the holster. I wouldn't recommend something like this for concealed carry or even duty use, just because it has that one method of turning off the retention. For competition, absolutely, but I wouldn't use this would not for me be a serious use holster. Now Black Hawk does have their duty style holsters, and I actually used to use one back when I was doing freelance armed security. It was the level 3 style holster. So they do have tactical and duty minded holsters, but the bottom line with your holster system is your holster selection is you want to get a holster for your particular application. If you're talking duty style, I would go with a level 3 duty holster, me personally. If you're talking concealed carry, I would go with something that's inside the waistband. That's just my preference, but there are different options out there for you. And there are even off-body carry options out there for you too. But the bottom line is this: do your homework, do your research, learn the laws in your local area, be familiar with them, and try a number of different firearms to see if they fit you before you make the investment to purchase the firearm, and make sure that you invest in a quality holster and a quality belt for your setup. Now, I'm going to leave it there. Like I said, this video could take forever because I could really go down a rabbit hole and a number of different options. But let me know what you think about today's video down in the comment section. Oh, and to my OGs, to the people that have been doing this for a long time, whether you're talking about law enforcement, concealed carry, whatever the case may be, drop those nuggets of wisdom in the comment section too. Those things that I might have missed. And this is, like I said, this is an educational video, and I really want to help those who are coming into the space or are still relatively new, or maybe they haven't been around this as long as we have. Let's just share some of our wisdom with them so that way we can all grow and become better. All right, y'all, I'm going to end it there. Like I said, thank you so much for watching. This is your big homie, man, and I'm signing out. Peace.